What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Praise Podcast. My name is Eric Lyday. I am joined by...
Go ahead, say it.
The one, the only, the co-host above any other co-host, the
so kind.
Brooke Paninsky. We are excited to be here today. It is, Christmas is going to be quickly approaching. Final preparations and plans when this drops. It's going to be hard to believe, Brooke. Mm-hmm. But we'll give it away that obviously we don't record these lives, and that's not a secret. But we will be on our last night of Christmas at Central.
That's crazy to think about from this point.
When this episode drops. So
cool.
Who knows what will have been in store in all those days leading up. But we're glad you're here. We're glad you are joining us. If this is your first time, welcome to what is the Praise Podcast experience. You are in for what is sure to be a wild and fun time. So we are glad that you're here. If this is your first time, we would encourage you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. That way you can stay up to date with everything that's going on. Join us on Instagram at The Praise Podcast, or you can always go to our website. That's right. Somehow we have managed to be legitimate enough to have a website, and that is thepraisepodcast.com, where you can find, what can they find, Brooke?
So many good things. You can find a link to all of our merch. That's just like a fun way to kind of get the word out about the podcast. You can find our favorite resources, things that we listen to or have read that we found very fruitful. We wanted to just share that all with you. And then, there's all sorts of things like our playlist is located on there, a easy way to get in contact with us, to join the conversation with our email. That's right on the website. Easy to find, easy to get to. Just things like that. Yeah, just a lot of fun things.
A lot of fun things. So much fun things. So many fun.
Speaking of fun things.
Man, I don't know what it is, but
what?
Speaking has been really, words have been very difficult for me in the last few days.
Yeah, it's probably your lack of sleep.
That could be, but last night at First Thursday I was trying to say, I didn't remember preparatory.
You made up a word. I'm confident in that. I'm confident the reason it didn't come out is because it doesn't exist.
I was creating it.
So we just kind of let you.
Is preparatory?
But I'm not sure.
I feel like there's supposed to be another P in
like
there.
Like a syllable or something.
Preparatory.
I don't. Again, you made that up. But
anyways.
I don't even know if that's actually the word that you said.
I don't know what I said. I don't know. But it was deep, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, speaking of that playlist, Brooke, that playlist that you referenced is our Spotify playlist, which has how many hours of music on there at this
over
point?
100 hours.
It's a wild amount of music. It's basically 4 years or 3 years, almost 4. I don't know. It's a lot of time worth of music. Real quick.
Wait, hold on, wait. What? That doesn't make sense. You're trying, that 100 hours of music is not worth 3 or 4 years of their time.
No,
but what you're
I'm
trying
saying
to say
it's
is
a collection of 3 or 4 years.
It's taken us 3 to 4 years to build the playlist.
Right. No, I'm not saying it will take them 3 to 4 years.
But that's what you said, even though it's not what you meant.
I told you it'd be wild and fun today.
What a treat they're in for.
Hey, so real quick. I'm going to take it through. I'm on one, as they say.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
I think we need to real quick talk about your year-end recap of music before we get to our Spotify playlist. I think we need to talk about.
What about it?
I don't know. Just is any. So if you listen to Spotify or Apple Music, right, you get they put together your. Yeah,
like your year. I don't know. Just
it's a year-end recap of your listening.
Yeah, like a summary of your
summary
music.
of your listening. And so that has been dropping recently, and everybody's been posting there. Give us. Was there any surprises? Did you have any surprises make your list?
I would say, we talked about how random the Taylor Swift Lover album felt.
Yeah,
that was just kind of random. But I think of that album when it comes to secular music, but that album and the Jonas Brothers' Happiness Begins album. They came out during COVID. And so for whatever reason, there's just a special place in my heart for those two albums. And they were so similar creatively. I remember thinking like, wow, these two artists during COVID who have no idea what they're
Is that
doing.
Didn't Taylor date a Jonas brother at some point?
Who knows? I'm sure one of them. But I just feel like I remember thinking there were so many creative elements and no one was doing it. Like the watercolor-esque pastel kind of vibe, even like some of their sound. Like I'm like, these albums were so similar, and I enjoyed them both. Yeah. But anyway, so that was a surprise because I don't know. I feel like I don't listen to a lot of Taylor Swift, but I mean, love her. But, so that was a surprise. But another surprise, but one that I was like, obviously a little bit more like excited about because it was just genuinely like telling. I like indie pop. That was a surprise.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was like, yeah, of course I do. But I wouldn't have even have known what genre that was to identify that I enjoyed it. Indie pop. Yeah. So isn't that wild?
Yeah, that is.
What about yours? What did you have?
For sure, I mean, it was definitely no surprise to me that The Strike was at like the top of my list and like all of my top songs for sure. Mm-hmm. But my number one album was a bit of a shock.
Yeah, I was very proud of you for this one.
I
tell the people.
My number one album was the new, or I guess the latest, Jonas Brothers album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's that album called? Or like, I don't know what the album's called. But I feel like I'm not even going to try to explain it away because there's a lot of songs on there I like that I think are actually good. So, whatever, come at me.
It's amazing.
But I will say that it's probably a little skewed because I drove through the night home from Florida and I listened to that album basically on repeat the entire drive. So, I mean, we're talking like a 9-hour drive that I just was playing that album. So I feel like it probably skewed the numbers a bit, but yeah.
That's so
apparently
weird.
I am a huge Jonas Brothers fan. So
yeah, skewedly huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not even mad about it. You know what?
The biggest fan.
Not even embarrassed.
So speaking about music, and that's better than, the secular kinds
we did have Christian music on our recap as well.
We 100% did.
So
before we get emails
we're not
about that.
we're not heathens.
But yeah, so even better than indie pop. Let's talk about Chris Tomlin.
Let's talk about Chris Tomlin.
Chris Tomlin for my song Spotlight. Mm-hmm. Which feels so random because it's such an old song, but Give Us Clean Hands.
Give us clean
Just
hands.
Like I woke up one morning with some of the lyrics in my head, and I don't know. As a worshiper, I feel like that's just how sometimes. I truly believe like that is just like how the Lord and I communicate. Like I don't know, the best way is just through worship and in a musical sense. And so, yeah, but this song, I just woke up with it in my spirit. But so I just was listening to it. And I haven't even honestly let me just pull it up.
Give us clean hands. Give us pure hearts.
Yeah, let us not lift our souls to another. And it was like, and God, let us be a generation that seeks, who seeks your face, O God of Jacob. That was the part of the song that that I just kept singing over and over again was just like, who seeks your face. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. So, but yeah, I mean, that verse is so, we bow our hearts, we bend our knees. O Spirit, come make us humble. We turn our eyes from evil things. O Lord, we cast down our idols. Like, it's just so good. Well, and it's just a prayer. And honestly, maybe some like, I don't know, when you think about what that means, like definitely like a season that I'm in. So I'm not surprised that I woke up with that in my spirit of just, my prayer being like to slow down and to just humble myself. And, when we're like, I'm kind of, okay, just to go there, like really asking the Lord to like, the lyrics of the song, it's like, search me and know me and prune what you find. And I don't know, like of just this refinement of like, okay, if there's something in me as a leader, as a wife, as a mom, as a friend, as a person, as just like a follower of you, like if there's anything in any of those that like you don't like, or that's not from you, point it out and take it away. And so I think just slowing down and like wanting a pure heart, wanting to like walk in humility and things like that, and being intentional about trying to do that. I don't know, like it's kind of where I'm at. And so like that song just in my spirit, but feels random, but I don't know. The more that I'm thinking about it in this moment out loud, I'm like, it's not that random.
No.
So.
Do you think like there's some like that song? I don't know. I'm gonna try to name them all, but like I don't know. I think of like there's several. How great is our God, obviously, but then like I think of like we fall down. Lay
I
our
love that
crowns
at the feet of Jesus. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, great. Like those are all great songs.
Mm-hmm.
In 20, 30 years, are those hymns?
No, those are just still great songs.
So you don't think we'll treat them like we treat hymns now?
No,
songs?
I don't. Hymns are just hymns.
Yeah,
hymns have been hymns, and hymns have remained hymns since hymns came to be. And you've not added to hymns, right? Like you just don't add to hymns.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that they're rewriting hymnal books.
See, yeah. I don't know.
I don't know.
That could
they
be totally
be.
Wrong. But
yeah.
I just mean from what I do know, or
it wouldn't shock me if
an
How Great Is Our
educated
God
guess
was in a hymnal.
Just because it isn't doesn't mean that it couldn't be.
Right. I'm just curious.
But no, I don't. I think it just remains a
like
classic.
We won't do a traditional service where we sing "Give Us Clean Hands." You don't think?
And
in 30 years.
You could, but you wouldn't call it a hymn.
Okay. All right.
What's your song spotlight?
My song spotlight is my last Christmas song of the year.
Let's hear it.
It is by Phil Wickham, and it is basically "Angels We Have Heard on High."
Okay.
But it's
But it's like Phil's worded.
Philified.
Philified. I love that. I love it.
So it's called "Angels" parentheses Glory to God close parentheses.
Good. Very good.
Yeah. So it's just again, it's just "Angels We Have Heard on High," right? Yeah, "Angels We Have Heard on High." I get "Angels We Have Heard on High" and "Hark the Herald Angels Sing." "Angels boy, those two songs.
Every Christmas we have this conversation.
Yeah, they just
still not figured it out.
They mess me up.
Poor
All
thing.
right, that's that. So check them out.
What a year it's been.
What a year it's been. Great segue, Brooke, because that is what you know. What else is just really comically that we got it. We're basically dressed the same
again. It's honestly embarrassing.
It's becoming a thing.
Or we just only both own like gray sweatshirts.
Yeah. Anyways.
It's our wardrobe.
We need
our
clothes.
Send
us clothes. Send us clothes.
Mine's at least a different gray sweatshirt. That was the same gray sweatshirt you wore the last time we matched in gray sweatshirts.
Yeah, it's my life is not in a season.
Okay.
To care about these things
right my
now.
Gosh.
But I just thought people are going to think we're planning this.
We're not. Trust me.
Anyways.
It's embarrassing. I don't want to match you.
It's not that. Okay. All right. It's not that embarrassing. All right.
Okay. Let's get on with the day. Come on.
So obviously we are growing ever closer to a brand new year. So 2025.
Yeah, that's crazy. But I feel like it's been 2025 for like 4 months already because we've been talking and planning things for 2025 for so long that I'm like, oh wait, we're not in 2025 yet.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
So we always like to take at least a episode to just kind of reflect back on the year that was, because I think there's a lot of benefit to taking time to just reflect back on what has been, what God's done, and then also just kind of what are we building towards, what are we looking forward to in this year that is quickly approaching. And so that's what we're going to do today. Yeah. We're just going to kind of talk about some of our highlights of the year, some of our favorite things that we've experienced, we've seen God do, as well as just kind of give you all a look into what are some of the things maybe we're thinking about going into a new year, and some of the things we're looking forward to. So I don't know. I don't necessarily think we have to like go down a chart, but we've talked about some things like, obviously we had some great trips, which we did a whole episode on our trips, so we won't spend a ton of time there. You can go back and watch that. But we got to travel and experience some really cool things. We had a lot of great events at our church where, again, if this is your first time, Brooke and I, we work at a church in Mount Vernon, Illinois, Central Christian Church. But I think back to things like Recharge, our Easter services, all the different events that, obviously we spent some time talking about baptisms and bonfires, which was
huge,
for sure a marking event for our church that happened. But I don't know, Brooke, just thinking back through some of those type of things, is there one or a certain thing that kind of stands out to you, or maybe a theme from all of those different things that stands out to you?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing that we did was open up Carbondale campus, and which like kind of ties into the whole, like, I feel like the theme. It is we've had to figure out how to grow well. And I think that's a theme that will carry on to next year. We're going to have to figure out how to grow well. I was talking to, I've just been thinking about this a lot. Like Chris Kane, she has a devotional coming out called Flourish. And it's about the olive trees and just kind of being able to like flourish in whatever season, that you're in, and some of which take time, and it's all intentional and all beneficial. And I just can't wait to like dive into that study altogether. But my boys were at the kitchen table the other night, and they were working on, I don't even know what they were working on. And one of my boys asked his brother was like, what's the word flourish mean? And so I randomly saw that. And my the other boy said, well, I think like, to me, it just means that something's not just growing, but like it's growing really well. And I'm like, that's really good. And so it's kind of like, we're experiencing growth with the extension of Carbondale, and, Lord willing, the model of that is to have more to come. And so it's like with the expectation being like growth is going to continue to happen, and hopefully it's fruitful and it's godly and it's in his timing and in a way that pleases and honors him. And so it's like, I think that's like the biggest highlight for this past year, but also I think prefacing what we're going to experience in the year to come is growth, but like not only just will we grow and will our church, we're prayerfully like expecting it to flourish, but like truly like, so then if that's the case, then we're not just growing in size, but like we're growing really well. And we're doing so in a way that's healthy, and in a way that's godly, in a way that is, timely and appropriate, and it's just fruitful. And so anyways, but I would say that's my biggest takeaway, both for an event that we kind of did, or like, event, but like significant happening, and then kind of just what that made me think about for this year.
Yeah, this year has been I think if I was to put a word on this year, I would say it was stretching. Like both just personally, as far as time, as far as just kind of learning on the fly about, like we said, there was a lot
building it as it grows, like is huge.
A lot of just pushing for new things and trying new things, and it's been a stretching year. Not bad, not bad stretching, but just it's challenge. I know it's been a challenge of like, you think, I don't know. I always think back to like, before we had kids, or even before I was married, and like, I feel like whatever season of life you're in, you always feel like that's like the craziest and the busiest season,
or like the most you can handle.
Yeah, it's like you're like, I don't know how I so many times I think back to being in college or whatever, and at that time not married and no kids, and you're just like, oh, I'm just swamped, like I just have I don't know how there's no time for anything, And then you go kind of to another season of life, and then
with more responsibility,
with double the responsibility you had at that point, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm swamped. I don't know how, and then it just it just builds. But I felt like this year was a year of like coming into it. I felt like, oh gosh, you know,
How are
like
we
I've
gonna do anymore?
yeah, you know, and even just even that of like I don't want to say like I've got this, but it's just like I can handle, you know, like or whatever pace I
it
run
felt
at.
like a manageable pace.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
like what
if
I'm
not
at
drowning,
is
like I'm busy, but like it's manageable.
yeah.
You know.
And then this year
Yeah.
was like,
Holy cow.
oh no, you had way more.
Yeah.
There was way more that you could
Oh
go,
my gosh.
and so I don't know, and I'm anticipating that. I mean, and just because.
Yeah, well, capacity changes
Yeah.
when you grow, and I think that's ministry related, but that's just like personal. Like that's people with their families, people with their spouses, people with their jobs, careers, people with their friend groups, people with the call, just like this call that they're operating in, or a gift that they're operating in, or a season that they're operating in, or whatever it is. Like just your relationship with the Lord is going to always only ever go through seasons of great growing, and that's what the Lord wouldn't want us to just grow. He doesn't want us to just like, I don't know how to explain it, but like if the Lord would rather have us grow just to grow, or to grow and flourish while we grow, like I feel like I know which one he would pick for me.
Yeah.
And so it's like he doesn't want us to just like get through it and be stretched and to grow and to build our capacity so we can take on more work, or we can come to know him more, or we've, whatever it is. But genuinely, like I think there's such a tenderness about God that helps us to flourish in these seasons, and he stretches our capacity, and he but and it's required, like just the shift. For whatever reason, I'm thinking of, like when you go from like milk to like meat, Christians will talk about that all the time, but there's a stretching that happens when you go from milk to meat. And so it's like, if you're someone right now who feels like you're a baby Christian, like walk through and embrace the stretching, and don't just think of it as like, it's just part of it. I just have to grow. Like, this is just, whatever, like I have to do it, and it's life, and whatever, like, but embracing the growth and like really, really, really like being intentional through it, I think is what moves you just from like, I'm going to just endure through this season of stretching, to like, I'm going to invest through this season of stretching, so that way I can flourish and really do so in a beautiful way, and what the work God is doing in me and in my life. So anyways, but I feel like that's just for me personally kind of what I've been walking through. But like for the church, I think even on the ministry side, what I've been walking through is growing, and not just growing, but growing well.
It makes me think of, I don't know, it's been a long time ago, but Chelsea, she's one of our volunteers. She did a Devo in the back about,
so good.
But it kind of, you're talking about flourishing, and like God doesn't want to just to grow, because sometimes for plants to grow and flourish, they've got to be cut back.
Got to be pruned.
And they've got to be pruned so that they can. And I remember she gave a Devo about how, I don't remember the specific flower, but basically, and it might be any flower, but basically like to get the most out of this specific. Do you remember what the flower was? I don't remember. It was a specific flower.
This Devo was like over a year ago.
Yeah,
though.
but it's always stuck with me.
Like it was really good.
But basically, what she was saying was, whatever this flower is, to get the most out of this flower, like you get the bloom, and right before it's ready to actually like open up and turn into, the beautiful flower, that's when you want to cut it, like right there. And then if you wait a little longer, what was one bloom will turn into multiple blooms of that same flower. And so like that just always stuck with me, because it's like, man, you're right on the edge of getting to see, you've been waiting, and you're getting to see this, what you think is this plant getting ready to flourish, this beautiful thing. But it's like, that's the moment to cut it. And then if you just give it a little bit more time, then it'll multiply that. And so I don't know, when you're talking about flourishing, that just is what, and that's what I kind of feel like we've kind of been in a way of like grow, but then it's like cut some things, but now just wait for a moment.
Well, because in that pruning season, and when it gets cut off, I think the invitation from the enemy is to look at it as death, or to look at it as a great robbing. And the Lord's perspective on it couldn't be any more than the opposite of that. His perspective is like, oh, well, we're just gonna, cut this little piece off, so that way you get more, or that way there's just more fruit and more harvest and more blessing and more goodness and more evidence of this. And that and the other. Like, but we can be so, locked in on just the right now that pruning felt like it was, we were then confused, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, God, like it was just about time and it's going to be a beautiful flower. And I've waited, for it to grow. And like all of a sudden now you come in and cut it off. Like, what in the world? And if you don't know anything about gardening, that makes absolutely zero sense to your nature, you know, to cut something good right before it's ready to launch, and like right before there's the evidence of the goodness right there in front of you. And so, but yeah, and we are so limited in our thinking like that I think the enemy just takes that bait, and then we can get into some discouragement there. But, God's not worried about that. And that's not how God sees it. So, just for him to then like open our perspective to be like, no, like this is just one little, cut and prune, and then like watch what will happen after that, know. And he's not even impressed by the one bloom, right? He's like waiting for like the multitude. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about that. But
what would you say is, if you were going to say like, which maybe we've covered this, maybe it's the same, but like a learning moment, a takeaway, something that that you'll take away from this year going into a new year, of like new perspective or new revelation on something or new ideas. I don't know any other ways to phrase that. I'm running out.
My word of the year this year, we've talked about this, but I'm not usually one that has a word of the year. Sometimes I'll have like a prayer, or something. And this year, my word of the year was lowly. And when I was praying about that, and I felt like that's what the Lord gave me, it's really just kind of been it's a constant, because I don't operate naturally as someone who thinks of themselves as lowly. I just don't. I'm on the move. I'm a confident person. I'm busy. I don't mind making calls. I don't mind making decisions. I don't mind to lead the way. I don't mind to, bust through new ground and build something myself. Like I don't know. Like I don't, as someone who's kind of like a go getter, or just kind of like, I don't have a lot. I'm not very timid of a person. And so like that to me can naturally, like the opposite of that to me is lowly. And like, so like I was in great need of some reposturing, that I can be all of those things and boldly so, but I can be all those things in a lowly position. And it's all about navigating. It's all like your lane. It's about how you do it. It's about when you do it. It's about, it's just a posture behind doing it. And so that was something huge for me, was just learning what it was like to be lowly and wanting to be and yeah. So that's been a journey, I think, of learning this year, and I think that I'll carry with me just as my I don't know, just it's far more than just a word of the year now. It's just kind of like a posture I want. It's just like kind of a level of expectation, or like a regrouping. When I, like things get crazy and, you have to find yourself in a posture of repentance. I thankfully, at least now, like do it often. I'm much more aware of like, maybe I shouldn't have, whatever, or like maybe this wasn't what I don't know. And so I don't know. I just think that lowly is a great regrouping word for me, to kind of come back to the center of like how I need to operate in ministry, how I need to operate in a steward of my home and my family, and how I need to operate as just a vessel in the kingdom, like all of these things, And so I think that would be like my biggest learning point. Would have just been that posture shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. That's really good. Oh, good.
I don't know what my word for this next year would be, so we'll have to wait for that one. But
maybe I'll do a word of the year.
It would last like 4 weeks. You'd lose your bracelet.
Oh, is that what you're supposed to?
Yeah,
make a bracelet?
I have it. I have a bracelet. Yeah, a lot of people do that. It's not like uncommon, but yeah. Actually, this is my second one, because my first one for the first half of the year got like just worn. I wear it every day, and so this one's the one from the back half of the year. But yeah, anyways.
Yeah, that's good. Let's talk about maybe going into next year.
Okay.
What's something that you'd say looking forward, 2025? What's on your mind?
Well, I think by no surprise, the theme of the conversation so far about reflecting on 2024 has been growth. And one of my favorite events that we did was baptisms and bonfires. It was incredible. Just in November alone, we had 90 baptisms for the month. And some churches, might get that, might see that fruit in like a year's time. And we've been that church. And maybe, hopefully we never, it's like, you never want to like, I don't know, when you're used to seeing like a couple hundred a year, you want to like strive, for that same kind of fruit. But anyways, like whatever the Lord would do is great. But I don't know, it's just incredible. Like I can't believe that we got to experience that. And so that was one of my favorite events that we did. And so like just with that, thinking about the growth and the fruit and continuing in that thought process, I really feel in my spirit when I pray about next year from a ministry point of view. I just see great fruit. Like I see huge growth. I see growth in staffing. I see growth in territory. I see growth in communication, growth in logistics, growth in just, I don't even know the right words, but like in my brain, everything's growing. Everything enhances. Everything gets larger, from organizational things to just things we get to experience or be a part of. And it's not even about the numbers that the Lord shows. Like, I mean, we'll see the numbers naturally just because when you reach and grow and do whatever, like that's what the Lord does with the harvesting. And so, you'll see the people, but the growth is almost like the substance of things will grow. Like I just can't even, it's like in every way you can look at it, every part of it gets larger.
Yeah.
And that's with all things. And hopefully, that's even representation of like spiritual growth for, our staff and our people, pastors, just all of it, just every part of ministry and everyone involved in the ministry just grows and gets this enhancement and just gets richer fruit. And but I don't know if that's like a prophetic thing. I don't know if maybe it is. I would say it is more than it isn't for sure, but like that's what I see when I pray. And so it's like, okay, and then that positions me, like, God, you've given me this vision to pray into, or you've given me this insight of what's hopefully to come if I'm understanding correctly. So like, what is my role in that? What would you have for me to do? And then and my natural like reaction is to be like, well, what can I build? Like, where do you need my hands at? Where do you need my brain? What can I be making or doing or, fine tuning or like gain? Like, that's just, my thought. But then it's like in a lowly position to be like, I truly believe that if you've only called me to pray into it and to maybe like, I don't want to say protect the vision, but like if something from the enemy seems to be coming against the growth that I believe the Lord has spoken about, then again, and spiritually speaking, like protecting that and praying against certain things too. So, and all that to say, like if truly praying and being almost, just praying into and being intentional about that, it is my role in that is sufficient and important. And I believe that it's just as sufficient and just as important as if I'm called to build something with my hands, or my brain. Like, so anyways, I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah. I feel like we're just talking about this so like randomly. It's all out there, but so those are thoughts I have about that.
And as you were saying that too, I think, I don't know, I guess the theme of this is going to be about plants and trees, but I just have that image in my mind right now. But like you're saying, like, I know as the tree grows, then obviously underneath that, the roots are growing and spreading out. They're getting deeper because the roots need to take in more to sustain, the growth of the tree above. And so I think just as you were talking, like I think that's something that we have felt for sure the back half of this year of like, I think we can see and feel the growth. And so it's almost like, I think for a lot of us that has shifted our minds to like, the growth is happening. So we need to make sure that the root system underneath is
it goes
there.
Into stewarding.
Yeah,
Stewarding
is there
the growth.
to sustain, to like, to help sustain and not just like protect the growth, but like allow the growth to do what it needs to do. Because, I mean, God is not limited by what we can do, but I think it's important that, you know, God needs, like, he put us on this earth to steward things. Like, that was our job when he first created us. And so, like, we have to be in positions and mindsets and postures that allow us to steward what God is wanting to create and what God is wanting to grow, because that's why we're here, is to steward those things. And so I think that's going to be important.
Yeah.
I think we've felt that tension and weight, and I think I think it's been a topic of conversation, you know, for a bit now. And so I think moving into 2025, it's going to, that's only going to increase.
Yeah. And I think it's important that like we think about growth as God thinks about growth and not as culture thinks about growth, because, you know, we measure things by numbers a lot of the times because each number is a genuine person who's who calls Central their home, their home church. But, you know, I also think in ministry, in all things, but in ministry, growth to the Lord, I mean, surely is more than just that. You know, so I think like you're talking about stewardship. What are things, God, that we can be doing in the next year to make sure people are flourishing as we grow, you know, to make sure that people are not just growing, but they're growing well. What intentional things can we incorporate? Can we teach about? Can we initiate? Or do we need to take away? Like, what are things? How would we need to, you know, move and adjust? Like through this season, we're not chasing an end goal. We're not chasing, you know, 5 campuses. We're not chasing 5,000 people. We're not chasing, you know, down these marker goals. It's just in God's timeline. As you do his will and as you trust him to move where God is, there's growth. And again, it might not be measured how culture says it should be measured, but there's growth nonetheless. And do we have the eyes to see the growth, even if, say like there's no change in attendance or like, you know, whatever that, you know, churches have, you know, sometimes get hung up on, you know, and it's like, who cares? What if God's not even looking at that? He's looking at growth via stewardship, not growth via number of people in your church, you know? So it's like, maybe like, even if you're watching, you know, and you're in ministry in any capacity, like, and you are tempted to look at just the numbers as a reflection on if your ministry is growing or not. And I would encourage you to ask the Lord to give you the eyes to see, you know, God, is my ministry growing how you're wanting it to grow in this season? Maybe God's not wanting your ministry to grow by a representation of numbers and people in the building. Maybe he's wanting your ministry to grow because of how many people attend your prayer night. Maybe it's how many people participate in worship. Maybe it's how many people begin joining a service team at your church. How many people are signing up for your small group studies and gaining community within the community of the church? Like how many, you know, so on and so forth. How are your people really actually growing? And so I think that that's going to be something prevalent in my mind moving forward, thinking about the coming growth. Is just not only are we growing, but thinking about how are we growing, and are we growing to the way that you've called us to?
Yeah, I think, I'm with you. I think if you're looking for measurables to measure, I think a far more beneficial thing to measure is, what is, you know, baptisms. What are, like you were saying, you know, like, are people engaged in some type of small group, community group, home group, whatever, you know, like, looking out across your congregation during worship, as you said, you know, like, are people engaged in that? Are they, you know, because I think all those are signs. Are people giving? Like, are people bought in enough to what the Lord said, to their relationship with the Lord, to be obedient in their finances, because I think all of these type of things, are people hanging around afterwards just because they want to be with each other, like these are all things that I think are far more valuable to look at and think about as you are assessing what is the growth of my people, more than just whatever number,
like how many people,
whatever
are
number
up.
Sat down in a chair or a pew that day. So I think for me, I don't know, this year feels, so I turned 35 this year.
Yeah.
And just
in February.
Actually, what is today? 2 months from today is my birthday. If anybody wants to get me a gift.
You need new clothes.
I could apparently use clothes.
Shopping spree for Pastor Lide.
Size large, please. Anyways, but yeah, and I don't know that there's something about that number that I don't know in my mind. It's not like I'm not bummed about it, but it just feels like one of those numbers that matters. I don't know why.
I wonder if there's how there are sometimes spiritual significances behind numbers. I wonder if there's anything spiritually significant about 35.
I don't know. I need to look.
You hear about 40 a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know, but just 35, and I don't know. I think
35 rounds up to 40. So then it's maybe you're on your way to real adulthood.
You think I'm about to be an adult?
I think for everyone's sake, I hope you're close. Just joking.
But yeah, so I mean, that's looming in my mind of just I don't know.
Looming?
Well, I don't know.
Sounds so devastated.
Yeah, that's not the right word. I don't know. I told you words are a problem right now, but it's just I've been thinking. I don't know why. I've been thinking about that as it'll be my what year it'd be. Yeah, my 12th or 13th year and on staff. And so I don't know. It feels maybe it is. Maybe it feels like a grown up number. It just kind of feels like a grown up number, I guess. Maybe that's it. But so yeah, I've been thinking about that and just thinking a lot about what's next, and all those things are just kind of I don't know. It's been, this year has felt like such a wild ride.
Yeah, for sure.
That it's hard to think
but next year's going to be crazier.
Yeah. And so it's hard to fathom that.
Yeah.
And you really can't until you're just in it and you're doing it. But
I mean, at the end of this, I was like, what did we even do this year?
Yeah.
I can't even remember. It was crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, there's that. I know. I mean, so there's going to be changes, with that. There's going to be, obviously, with growth and anything, there's going to be changes for that. There's our family wise, a lot of things are gonna look different come next year, and so there's just a lot of things to. I don't know. I think right now it feels just different. It feels
it's
like
when you're
that's coming.
You're preparing for what you don't know it's coming, but you know more is coming.
Yeah.
And so it's almost just you're not brace for impact, it's bad, but you're preparing yourself for okay, I don't know what's ahead, but I know a lot's ahead.
Yep.
God, would you ready me for it? And again, you can walk into a season like that already speaking things it's gonna be just wild, and I already don't have time, and I know the Lord's called me, but it's so much to manage, and this year, my kid's gonna be this age, and everybody says it's the hardest age, and then this year, all this is you just doom and gloom and death over the things that are to come. And again, the Lord's going to continue to always grow us if we let him, but if we partner with him through it, we won't just grow, but we will grow well, and we will flourish in these seasons. And it makes me think of the verse, I genuinely have to look it up, I don't know where it is, but about the tree that's planted and wherever, by the, you know what I'm talking about? And then it grows and it produces fruit in every season or something.
Oh, yes.
I'm butchering that.
Yes.
For sure. But like that's what it makes me think of in every season, no matter what, like where you're planted in Him and what you speak and what you expect and how you pray and how you prepare. Like you won't just be growing through another season, but like you'll be flourishing through another season instead. And that of the two options is what God wants for us.
At first, I thought you were talking about the fig tree that He curses. That's why I was confused for a moment. But
no, we don't want cursed fig trees. We want fruitful, rooted trees.
But no, and I think that is.
I'm gonna look it up.
With any shift. I think that's been kind of like you were talking about lowly. I felt just I think humility is a word that like I don't know. Is it unhumble to say I don't feel like I'm not a humble person? Is that a prideful thing to say? You're not even paying attention. You're on
no,
your
I
phone
told
now.
you I was researching this.
Well,
Talk to the people.
Okay. Well, anyways, you guys will have to feed in on that. But humility is something that I have definitely over the last several months has just been such that has been like my number one prayer is like God give bring up any pride in me and help me get rid of it.
Point out any wicked way in me.
Show it to me. Help me get rid of it.
Yeah.
And
boy, won't He do it.
Yeah.
Won't He do it when you ask.
And that has been a constant over the last several months. And then I know going into this next year, just I can feel that like there's still more of that to work out in me because I know of, like it is hard. Like I'm a doer and I want to get like right now there are people working on our stage and it drives me nuts that I'm sitting right here and I'm not with them helping them. But like that's just my nature is I want to help and I want to get in and do things and I don't want to sit back. But it is like that weird thing of the more you're asked to lead, the less you get to actually do. And because you have to.
Well, the more you lead, I think the more rest is required.
Yeah, you have to allow other people to do the things.
Delegate.
So it's just that for me, that's one of those things of like God point that like, okay, this is not something that I personally need to do. So point that out, figure out, pluck out whatever that is in me that is making it feel like I'm the one that needs to do this. Help me to pass that on. And so I know that that's only going to need to increase in this coming year. And so that is something that I'm definitely praying about is how do I do that better? You found your story. Share it.
Yeah. So I think to wrap up this episode, before you sign off, let's just read Psalms 1:3, and this is the Passion Translation. He will be standing firm like a flourishing tree planted by God's design, deeply rooted by the brooks of bliss, bearing fruit in every season of life. He is never dry, never fainting, ever blessed, and ever prosperous.
That's a really good verse.
That's a good verse,
what
boss.
Was that?
Psalms 1:3.
1:3.
The Passion Translation. Come on now.
I like that a lot.
So good. Verse of the year?
That might be.
Sweet.
I like that a lot.
You heard it here first.
Wow.
Psalms 1:3, Passion Translation is our verse of the year for 2025.
There you go.
Come on.
Boom. There it is. All right. Well, hopefully I would encourage you, think, like if you haven't thought about it, we got like a week left before a new year begins, but maybe in this time of downtime of holiday season while you're maybe off work or things are a little bit more relaxed, take even just 30 minutes, spend some time just thinking back. Maybe in your quiet time, you can just sit back and look back at all the things God's done for you in this past year and ask him, like, what do you have in this coming year? What do I need to be preparing for? What do I need you to prepare me for? What do I need to be open to? And all these things. But just have those. I would encourage you to have those conversations, be thinking about it, because I do think it's beneficial.
Yeah,
for your own growth, for the growth of the kingdom, it's beneficial that we as Christians reflect and prepare. So, praying that it'll be a great 2025 for you and your family. We're praying that 2025 brings on just a whole new level of fun for this podcast and this community, and that we're looking forward to walking into another year of that. And so for those of you that have been with us this whole time, thank you. Love you all. Stay with us, please, and maybe share and tell somebody else about it. So as always, you can join in the conversation. You can email us, Eric at thepraisepodcast.com or Brooke at thepraisepodcast.com. Find us on Instagram, subscribe to the YouTube channel, head over to, we probably need to in 2025, we've probably got some new resources we'll have to do maybe a fresh update of a few things there for maybe some fresh items going into a new year for you all. But yeah, head over to that. There's all kinds of resources and things like podcasts that we recommend, the Song Spotlight playlist, and then of course books and studies and different things like that. So be sure to check that out. Hope you have a great Merry Christmas with your family. Have a great New Year. And when we see you next, it'll be 2025. So we love you all. Let's be people in every day and every way that bring the praise. See you next time.